Yeah, super cool. And now she came here? No, she just came to work. She's an visual artist. Yeah? She's actually doing like motion pictures. Very nice. How old do you think she is? 32? She's 30. But everyone thinks she's like a baby. She's a baby. Yeah, she looks like way smaller than me. Oh, yeah. So yeah. Yeah. One of the students. What kind of stuff? Yeah. Play it fast. Like not just parties, bars, like electronic music, this kind of stuff. No, no, no. I would. Like you don't understand. But it's yeah. Really? Yeah. Oh. Okay. You mean for me as well? Playing to the mic?
No, not for playing, just for talking. Hey guys, I'm yeah, I'm extremely happy to bring a new guy. He's never been here before, but we know each other for a long time, and he's a great player and a great guy, and a great teacher too. So everything about it is great. He's even a handsome guy. Look at him. But he knows a lot about everything, and open to all kinds of music, and always playing his butt off. So please give a warm welcome to Freddie Hendrix. And as you maybe know, we have a sub drum teacher here in the house, and he's subbing for Steve Altenberg, and he's from Florida. Where are you from, actually, Freddie?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, right?
Madison, baby, yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, from Florida, via New York, via Groningen, via Italy, and now he lives in Delft, near Rotterdam. It's Owen Hart Jr. So, from here on, I give the honors to Freddie. So, here you go.
How you doing, guys? It's good to be here. I was under a lot of pressure to make it here today. There was a lot of doubt that I wouldn't get here, but we thanking God that I did in one piece, and I had a wonderful assistant over there, Mr. Jan. Give it up for Jan. And Mr. Tepe over here next to me on the side, between the two of them, and everybody and the wonderful staff, and that and everybody made everything very, very easy transition for me. So thank you. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you during the course of this week, and just take whatever I say with a grain of salt, and it's not intentional or to hurt your feelings. We're just here to plant seeds into your mind, and it's up to you guys to water it and make it grow into something. So with that being said, we'll just continue forward. We'd like to start today's program with the Cedar Walton composition. This one is entitled Bolivia. Have a seat. Y'all ain't gotta stand up. Come grab a seat. Thank you. I'm going to continue with a ballad. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll let you hear it. Do we have any questions?
One more?
Well, we definitely get to that. But do you want to ask any questions about me? Anything that you might be curious about? Anything? Anything? What do you guys aspire? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, I want to ask you, like, I don't know how to ask you, but like, the way you give a curve and give a tension and release when you're soloing.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm really curious that how did you make it? And
That's a good question. Did everybody understand what he's asking? Yes? So, it takes a long time to play this music. It's seriously difficult. Like, you really have to put your life into it. What I mean by that is, as we evolve as people, like you guys are you fall within a certain age bracket. So most of you are like in your early 20s and stuff, right? So then you're gonna get to a point where you're in your 30s. And it's kind of close to your 20s, but you're a little bit older. And then you hit that 40 mark. And when you hit that 40 mark, now things really change. Because now you feel a difference in your body and how it functions. Like the stuff that you did at ease, like at the age that you are now, suddenly becomes much more difficult when you're older. So in relationship to your question, as we grow older as men and women, your music, as we evolve as men and women, your music will evolve too. So what I'm saying is, as you get older, your maturity and the time that you're putting in now is gonna be that much better when you get older. And you start, if you're smart, you'll start working on primarily the things that you don't do so well. I was speaking to some of the students in my composition class and also in the ensemble. We have to always work on the things that we're good at, but we really need to give attention to the things that we're not so good at. You want to turn your weakness into a strength. So one of my weaknesses when I was coming up, playing, like when I was your age, I couldn't play an introduction on the front of any song. And because I was scared, number one, and number two, because I lacked harmonic knowledge. So I guess I kind of developed it as I got older. I was starting to realize that I need to be able to play an introduction on a tune. I need to be able to not only play with the band, but also be able to hold my own. That means like have good time, play with a good sound, know the changes on the tunes, what tune the key is, and all that kind of stuff. So, and you borrow and you steal. What you don't know, take from somebody that does know. So that's all I did. I listened to people that I like playing, and I just try to emulate that, but I also try to put my thing into it too, which is so you heard some of a rendition that I stole from Freddie Hubbard, but I put some of my thing up in there too. So that's how that comes. I just try to, I was telling the students earlier today too, that when you guys, and this applies to the improvisation class when we get into that tomorrow or whenever I have it, When you guys play a solo, you have to think about it before you actually do it. And what I mean by that is you have to think about the first note or the first phrase that you want to play before you play it. You know, you got to think of your performance like a game of chess. It's strategic. You can't just move a man and expect that it's going to be cool. You got to really think about it before you do it, okay? And all of this stuff happens in a split of a second, you know? Anything can happen to us at the drop of a dime. You have to be ready to throw down when it happens. You know, that's what makes the music challenging, but that's also what keeps us on our toes and keeps us evolving. Is there any other questions? There's got to be some more. Yes.
Okay. To what extent do you feel you are a creator, a composer, as opposed to performer?
Okay, that's a great question. When you actually start to compose music, to me, it's just my opinion, but to me, when you begin the process of beginning to compose music on your own, that's when you have opened the gateway to finding your true sound, your true identity, your true personality. You're still influenced by the people that inspire you to play, but when you're writing music, you have to compose everything on your own. It has to come from your ideas. Because you can copy little snippets of things that you got from people, but essentially it has to come from you. Does that make sense? When you get more into you, in other words, when you write a composition, so in the beginning it might not be so great, but you have to take the plunge. You have to just start out writing a blues, write something simple. Make a little assignment for yourself, write a blues, write a rhythm changes, just write 4 or 8 bars of something, doesn't matter. That 4 or 8 bars can end up becoming an introduction on another piece of music that you write. But you have to start with an idea. I also mentioned to the classes earlier today, I'm gonna keep saying this because it's so deep. Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. And as musicians, that statement is so true because without imagination, we're nothing. You are the musicians. You guys are the musicians. You are the instrument. Not the instruments that you play. You are the instrument, first and foremost. That's why you have to practice singing. Not necessarily lyrics, just humming notes, being able to sing a melody, being able to sing drum rhythms, being able to sing a bass line. Boom, 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 bing, boom, boom, bing, boom, 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 bing, boom, boom, bing. You should be able to do that. Beep, beep, dee, da, boop, dee, boop, dee, you can hear the drums, right? You can feel everything with it, right? You have to, the stuff that you're listening to, you should be practicing singing that. Instead of listening to music on your leisure time, then take something that you're used to listening to and start breaking it down from one instrument to the next instrument. Like take a song and just listen to what the drums do all the way through from the top to the bottom. Then do it again. Then go to the next instrument, go to the bass. Then listen to the piano. Listen to how the piano's comping. Listen to how horn players phrase with each other. You have to understand, in order for you to have a full understanding of what it is that you want to do, you have to first understand that. You have to first understand the fundamentals of the difference between harmony and rhythm, and that they're one. They're pieces of a puzzle that comes together, and it's up to you to solve that puzzle. You have to make that puzzle fit. Does that make sense? Okay, another question. Yeah.
You mentioned the story of becoming more mature as a human being,
Right.
as persona, and then transferring what you developed for years into your music
Right.
development. Do you have maybe some translating from just the musical terms, like seventh in a minor chord means Z emotion, or sharp 11 there means Z emotion. And when you actually play, do you think about I want to transmit right now being sad or being happy or being on a sunny day in Groningen, and to express that I need to emphasize these notes or these lines. Do you have something like that?
That's a hard question. Say that to me again. Let me see if I understand this properly.
Well, 3 years of my music education, was asked a couple of times like about what do I play?
Okay.
What this line meant in my playing, like what I was willing to express.
So somebody kind of like transcribed what you played?
Yeah.
And what did you say?
And this is also a tough question because maybe I know these notes correspond to harmony and I thought that they will sound nice in that moment.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have an exact
So it was a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, I don't have an exact translation. This was a.
Oh, I got what you're saying now.
Street in Groningen, and I expressed about.
That's because you haven't analyzed your own playing yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to transcribe one of your solos, and then you can dissect and say, oh, I know what I did on this, blah, 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 blah. It was this. That's what you need to do. If that's what you want to do. I don't think it wouldn't help, it wouldn't hurt to analyze your playing because we have to edit our playing as musicians too. And this is the period where you should do it the most. Like I had to edit my playing because my problem when I was a student like you guys, when I was in undergrad and I was studying under Rufus Reed, I went to him my sophomore year in college because my freshman year in college, he had took a sabbatical. So he was gone, and Kenny Burrell had filled in for him for the year. And then he came back my sophomore year, and I really wanted to get in close with him. So I asked to speak to him in private in his office. And so I went to his office, and I said to him, I said, Professor Reed, I realize that you have hundreds and thousands of students that you work with throughout the years. But I would like to express interest in wanting to play in your band. So I went to him and told him that. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah. And I said, I would love the opportunity to do that. And he said, okay. And that's it. He didn't say nothing. So from that moment on, once I left that office, he was forever on my back about playing the right notes in the right spots. Because my ears were very developed, but I didn't understand harmony that much. I didn't understand really. I knew scales and I knew chords, but I didn't know how they really work. I was playing some good stuff, but I was playing a lot of bad stuff. I had got dissed I got to tell you this story. This is deep. This is going to stay with you forever, too. So we used to have these things called Dialogue Day. And Dialogue Day is when, in the William Patterson program, it was 75 students. And so that's broken down into approximately 25 small groups. And on Dialogue Day, each group prepares one song, an arrangement of a standard or a jazz standard, and you perform that song in front of your peers and the faculty members, and then they get to comment on what you did. So my first Dialogue Day, now granted, I'm a freshman in a combo that was all upperclassmen. It was one saxophone player, he was a sophomore, he was the baddest cat in the school. Then there was a guitar player, he was a junior, and he was the baddest guitar player in the school. He knew the whole Charlie Parker Omnibook from memory. And then the piano player was a senior, and after he graduated, he went off to play with Meatloaf. And then there was and then the drummer was a junior, and he grew up playing in Jamie Aebersold camps from like when he was really young. So all of these guys are super seasoned, except for me. And I'm just a guy that just internalized the music just from listening to it. I never had any theoretical knowledge or anything like that. Didn't understand notation, but my ears were so good. Let me explain this to you. My ears were so good and my reading was so poor, I could literally sit next to somebody that was a great reader and match them note for note. That's how good my ears were. But I didn't understand how they work over playing changes. So getting back to the point, we had to play Chick Corea's tune called Chick's Tune, which is based off of You Stepped Out of a Dream. Hard tune. You ever heard that? Check that out. It's hard. Just the melody alone is hard. And then you get to them changes. If you don't know nothing about changes, you want to talk about getting beat up? So this is what happened. So if any of you heard of the bass player Todd Koolman? Okay. Todd Koolman he was the head of the music department at SUNY Purchase in Westchester, New York. And he used to play bass for James Moody. So anyway, he also was a professor at William Patterson at the time. And he was conducting Dialogue Day at that time. He was kind of taking the lead with it. And so he said to everybody, hello, everybody, welcome Freddie Hendrix to the program. And everybody started clapping and stuff. And he's like, he's his first year here. And he's like, man, he sounds great, doesn't he? And they was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, man, kind of reminiscent of Clifford Brown. And my chest started sticking out like this. I'm like, yeah, man, he said, I sound like Clifford Brown. Yeah, this is great. And he was like, but, if I had to describe how you played over those chord changes just now, if we were in war and we was in a minefield, we all would be dead. And everybody was cracking up, just like you guys are laughing now. And my ego was shattered. I was like, so getting back to editing, so every time after that moment when I told Rufus I wanted to play in his band, he either told me what to do or he told me what not to do. And sometimes he was verbal about it, and sometimes his body language just would speak. He would just like look at me and his eyes would open up like this, and he'd be like, he would growl on me like a bear or something, And I'd be like, whoa, what's going on? And it was because he didn't approve of what I was doing. So I had to do something about this because I want to play in this man's band. So as I got older, he's always seeing me in a school setting. He's never seen me in an out of the school setting. So he doesn't really know what I can do. Because when you're in school, you're kind of structured, you kind of got handcuffs on you, and you kind of scared to let loose, so to say. But when you out playing and there's nobody watching you, and you don't have, Professor Tepe to say, oh no, that's not right, or anybody like that, you gonna do what you do. So when it came time for my senior recital, he was blown away. He was blown away. He didn't know that I could arrange. He didn't know that I could write. He didn't know that I played the way that I did, and I didn't get in his band right away, but a couple years down the road, I ended up in his band. So I'm telling you all of this, not to brag about accomplishments, but I'm telling you that if you feel like you're not at the level now, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. If you want something, get it, because it's there waiting for you. Don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask, you don't get. Sometimes you can ask and you won't get, but that doesn't mean to give up. You got to keep striving forward. Is there any other questions about anything?
Related to that story you told, I checked your website and I saw a long list of people and bands you played with.
Yes.
I guess there's some very nice events you've been to and some very bad events.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us
advice on how to get those good events and how to avoid the bad ones?
Good. That's a great question. So that's more, to me, like a business question. And what I mean by that is not from a marketing perspective. Well, yeah, it is kind of a marketing perspective. So my advice to all of you, starting now, when you go to see somebody perform at a local club or wherever you may be, even if you're traveling, you go to see a band that you like, and it's an artist you like, and you want to meet them, don't be afraid to go and say hello. You don't have now. Don't stand there and try to have conversation, but introduce yourself. Have a business card ready. Nowadays, you don't really kind of need a business card because we got these iPhones and smartphones and all of that, and people just, they say, well, text me your number, like that. So if that's what you need to do, that's what you do. But in the days when the cell phones weren't hip like that, or there wasn't even any cell phones or smartphones like that, you had to have business cards made. And that you went to go check out a band, you go up to somebody that you like, you introduce yourself, you say, hi, I'm Freddie Hendrix. I really enjoy your playing. I've been avid admirer of your music, and I would love an opportunity to play with you someday. And you hand them your card. Some of them will respond, some of them won't. But don't give up. The goal is to keep going and learning. Go to these gigs, listen to them, see how they function, see how leaders lead their bands, see how they interact with each other. Study all of these things, learn their music. If there's an artist out there that you really, really want to play with, you want to get the gig, learn their music. You might not get it right away, but you get it eventually. Learn somebody's music. They'll hire you in a heartbeat, especially if you got it memorized. You got it. And then if you can really play, it's yours. You got anybody? Another question?
As I know, you become sessions for many bands.
Yeah.
And also like many kinds of music. For me, I really want to ask you, like, there's a thing like there are so many jazz players who play good, really play amazing, but they can't play R&B or something like hip hop,
Right.
And I want to just ask you, like, how did you manage with that kind of bunch of new sounds to you, like when you get a record or gig, something like that? Like,
Yeah, well, in my case, I came up listening to that music, but of course, like when I was 5 years old, Alicia Keys wasn't around. So, like in a case like her, I was familiar with who she was, but I didn't really know her music. So I had to, dive in and check that out. If you want to work, you have to learn as many styles of music as you possibly can and really, really learn it, like internalize it. Practice singing it. Listen to it over and over and over again. Repetition is key. You got to do that. A lot of stuff I learned playing on wedding bands. They helped me like get some of my funk chops together and playing in hard keys. You go in a wedding band and they don't be calling the easy keys like B flat and E flat. They be playing in E, in A, they play in B, and they'd be like solo, and they'll be at the drop of a dime. You playing all kind of messed up notes, and there's people out there, and some of them hear it, some of them don't. So, that stuff helps you get things together. It helps you put things in perspective. It helps you to go back and edit your playing. That's what I mean. So we're constantly editing our playing. It never stops. What we do is a never-ending process. We're always searching to get better and better and better. It's like a drug. It's a high, especially when you're playing with band members and everybody's vibing off of each other, and you done been on the road for like a month, and you're playing the same music night after night, you start getting into a spiritual realm it's hard to even explain what that is. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. And it doesn't happen all of the time, but when it does happen, and all of those cylinders are running high and in sync. It's like a high. You live to experience it again. And that's the beauty of music. You know, it's infinite. There's infinite ideas out there, especially if you have a great imagination. And a lot of that imagination, in my opinion, definitely comes from you being a player, but certainly if you start composing music. To me, that's when you really start going deep within yourself, you know, and then your playing starts changing. So like what you guys heard me do today, I haven't played Bolivia in years. I probably haven't played that song since like 2015. Why was I able to get through it? Because it's just in me. I hear it. You know, I'm not at home shedding that. I'm a father and I'm a husband and a father of 2 kids, and I'm looking after my mom, and I got an autistic brother, and we're all in the house together, and I'm like going crazy. But what gets me through is my experience. I'm just like, I do maintenance just to help get my chops through, but it's my experience that's helping me to do what I just did in front of you guys just now. And I didn't know exactly what was gonna come out, but you know, you just go for it. A lot of what makes a performance strong is also the conviction that you put behind it. So you gotta pump yourself up before you go to engage in what it is that you're doing. You gotta go into your inner, go deep into yourself and go for it, you know? Use your influences to inspire you, but inspire to want to be more of yourself, because that ultimately that's the most important thing. Huh? Okay, we play another one? Yeah. Cool. We'll keep it Latin, right? And then for my first chorus and the second chorus going this way. For the first chorus. For the first chorus, but keep it in Latin. Keep it in the Latin feel, and then the second chorus. So, should I talk a little bit about my career? Okay. Let me get a drink of water. I'm on a liquid fast, so my chops are not feeling 100%. I know y'all probably saying, "Damn, he's playing like that, and he don't play. He's saying that he's not 100%." But I'm not. My chops are a little shaky today, but especially with the jet lag and all that stuff, and drink too much coffee and got the jitters. But in any case, we make it happen, right? No matter what. So, I'm from a small town in New Jersey called Teaneck, New Jersey. And Teaneck, New Jersey, coincidentally has a plethora of great jazz musicians that ended up migrating there primarily because they just wanted to get out of the city. They want to be around trees and around parks and stuff like that and not have to deal with the day-to-day life of people in your face all of the time everywhere you go. You know, you can cross the water, the Hudson River, go in Jersey, and everything is nice and calm and relaxed. So lots of people reside there. Some people passed away. I'll just give you a quick list of people that lived there. whether they're there or not. Ray Drummond, famous bass player, lives there. Rufus Reed lives there. Lenny White lives there. When Donald Byrd was alive, he had a house there. The great Milt Jackson used to live there. Nat Adderley from Cannonball and Nat Adderley, the Adderley brothers. Nat used to live there with Sam Jones. There's a funny story about that. I can't tell you that one because there's some cursing involved. And it happened to deal with them going to see Rufus when he first moved there. But in any case, lots and great players. Scott Robinson, great saxophonist. Elliot Ziegman. The list goes on and on and on. Just a lot of great jazz musicians. So anyway, getting back to myself. Just next door, coincidentally, is Inglewood, New Jersey. And I have to mention Inglewood, number one, because Dizzy Gillespie resided there, number one. Number two, I was born in Inglewood Hospital, but raised in Teaneck. And number three, there was a famous R&B group that goes back to the 60s, and in the 70s, they had became quite famous, called the Isley Brothers. And Jimi Hendrix, before he became Jimi Hendrix, used to live with them for 3 months before he moved to London and became a big star. And it's a group that was all brothers, just like the Jackson 5, but it was like 5 or 6 of them, all Isley brothers, and one of them, the guitarist that studied with Jimmy, his name is Ernie Isley. So in any case, so I grew up in a household. Nobody in my family played any instrument. I'm not a pedigree. I just got into music because my 2 older brothers always played records in the house all of the time. And I can remember as far back as like 3 or 4 years old, and I was listening to music like, well, back in these days, in the 70s, there's a machine called 8-track machine. It looks like almost like the equivalent size of a VHS tape. But it was just a little bit smaller, but it's super big. And we had an 8-track system, and so in those days we played a lot of 8 tracks and a lot of records. And I was listening to the Jackson 5, Prince, George Benson, Breezin' was in my family record collection. And then a bunch of groups that you probably never heard of, like the Isley Brothers, the Commodores, which the lead singer was Lionel Richie. I know you know Lionel Richie's name, so he used to sing in a group called the Commodores before he became really famous. Roberta Flack, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Live at the Palladium, Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds, so like all kind of stuff. So this is all of the music I was absorbing as a kid. And so listening to that, you're hearing all types of orchestration. So it was only natural that I would end up playing an instrument because on a lot of those records, you're hearing trumpets and saxophone and, big band stuff, even strings in some cases. Barry White. I listened to I had a Barry White record. I was wearing that out because it's all like strings and stuff, and that stuff amazed me, I loved the sound. It hit me in my heart. And so,
EWF in there, right?
huh?
Of course you had some EWF in there.
Oh, yeah. So,
Those horn sections.
yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, Earth, Wind, of course, Earth, Wind, and Fire. How can you, Stevie Wonder, like that's the stuff I grew up listening to. So jazz came later for me. I went through so many periods of checking out different music. When I was in 5th grade, I was listening to heavy metal. So I was heavily into like Anthrax, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Metallica. Like I was checking that stuff out. You want to hear some guitar? That's the stuff. Like seriously, I'm not joking. I was like really into that because I really loved the guitar. Prince made me love the guitar, but I couldn't play the guitar. I tried it and I couldn't do it. I just didn't have the mental capability at that time. My brain went through weird stages in my life. My brain wasn't functioning properly until, in all honesty, really until like I got to college. That's when like everything started lining up mentally for me in terms of receiving information and absorbing it. You know, when I got to college, I didn't understand notation. Can you imagine being in college and you don't understand notation? Like, this is not a joke. This is for real. Like,
How was admitted there without knowing how to read music?
I told you, my ears were so good, I could literally sit next to somebody that was a great reader and match them note for note. Because I knew the notes. It either going to fall on a line or a space. I know the scales, but I didn't understand rhythm. Syncopation, I didn't understand that. When you start getting into like 16th notes and 8th notes and stuff, that's another ball game. If we start playing authentic Latin music, everybody in here is gonna fold. Everybody. You start throwing rhythm into the mix, that's a whole nother ball game. And I'm diving into that now. There's a Cuban piano player that I work with back home in New York. He was originally from Cuba. His name is Elio Villafranca. Look out for that name, Elio Villafranca. He's a jazz instructor at Juilliard, but listen, look out for his name. We just did it. His latest record is not out yet, but it's gonna be coming out. Check that out. This dude is heavy. Anybody that's come out of Cuba, that's like the top-notch musicians. Roy Hargrove said the first time he went to Cuba, when he heard the level of musicianship there, he said he almost quit playing trumpet. Like, seriously. He was serious as a heart attack. And then he did a Latin record called Habana. That was the whole reason why he went there, because he went to go check out the music. But when he saw that how high the musicianship was, it messed him up. And he was like part genius. So for him to say that, that just goes to show you what's out there. But in any case, let me see if I can move along a little quicker. So we jump past high school, college. So let me mention this. So William Patterson College then, but university status by the time I graduated. William Patterson, my undergrad school, was very important for me. Why? Because they had a jazz series that was every Sunday called the Jazz Room Series. And on this Jazz Room Series, they would have one of the small groups in the school open up for a professional band. And it can be anybody. It could be Mike Brecker. It could be the Vanguard Orchestra. It could be J.J. I got to open up for J.J. Johnson, the last concert he ever played. J.J. Johnson. I mean, any star you can possibly think of, people have come through there and they've played. Art Farmer's been there. And everybody. Like, the list is endless. So it was advantageous for me because when you play in a small group that opens up for these bands, they're in the back checking you out. So if you took that seriously, they would approach you. Now, I didn't walk away getting a gig right away, but I made a lot of contacts and people started to get to see who I am, because when you're in college, nobody knows who you are because you're not out there like that. So, and when I graduated, here I was thinking, yeah, now I'm gonna get some gigs, because I had been going to the Vanguard religiously every night every Monday to go see the big band play. I had aspired to play in that band. I subbed in it a lot. I did tours with them, but I never got in. That's how things happen. So, so college was very advantageous for my career in that sense. But this is what they call paying dues period, where I had an advantage point that people knew who I was, but they also knew that I still had a ways to go before I really got to their level. So you can't let these things discourage you. You have to keep striving to be the best that you can be and keep learning the material of artists that you aspire to play with. I never in a million years would have thought that I would have played with George Benson. I recorded with George Benson when I was 23 years old, and I listened to his records since I was 3 years old. I mean, I can't lie about that. You know, I mean, these are the kind of things that people I grew up listening to, I ended up playing with them years later. It still blows my mind that that even happened. A bunch of people like that. I never would have thought that I'd play with Wynton Marsalis. I ended up playing for 5 months with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. Grew up listening to Standard Time, Volume 1. I never would have imagined. I never imagined that I was going to travel over here and go to over 50 countries and be traveling around the world. I never imagined these things. I can say I've played in at least 50 countries now. So whatever you aspire to be or whatever you desire to have and accomplish, go for it. Doesn't have to be jazz. Whatever hits you in your heart. If you love it, go for it. It's there waiting for you. I never knew I was going to play with Alicia Keys, and then from me playing with Alicia Keys spawned me into working with Lenny Kravitz and playing with Common, the rap artist, and meeting Queen Latifah, and I got to play Montreux Jazz Fest, and Quincy Jones sat where you're sitting now and watched me all night, and then came and started talking to me about like his life. It's like, it was amazing. So let me talk about some other people I've played with. I had mentioned to the composition class, I've worked with a gentleman. His name is, you might not be familiar with his name, but his name is Illinois Jacquette. Illinois Jacquette was a famous tenor sax player who I consider to be a part of the Ellington era. And what I meant by that is he was the last tenor sax titan that played in the style of Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young, Ben Webster, those kind of guys, the guys that woo, 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 you know, playing all sexy like that. And I worked with this guy. They nicknamed him the Beast. His nickname was the Beast because he was a heavy drinker, and he would curse people out left and right. It was unbelievable. I could tell you so many stories of how disrespectful he was to so many people. And other things, and people being disrespectful to him, and then him turn around and curse them out. He was 80 years old. He didn't care. There was no, you know, if you got him mad, he went in on you. It's like he was amazing, but he also had a beauty to him too. He wasn't all bad, you know. I came up playing next to Frank Foster. Are any of you familiar with Frank Foster? Frank Foster became like a mentor to me. That's a good story to tell. When I got out of college, I went to audition for his band. This was in 2001. They were going to do a jazz cruise, and the lead player couldn't make the rehearsal in New York at the Musicians Union, which is called the Local 802. And I went to this rehearsal, and I had the sight read all of this music. And when you read Frank Foster, man, playing the lead trumpet, hard. So at the end of the rehearsal, I went and introduced myself. I said, hey, Mr. Foster, I'm Freddie Hendrix. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to let me sit in on your playing your music. And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, man, you got a great sound. And he's like, I like your sound up top. He said, you just got to work on your reading a little bit more. And I was like, damn it. And so 2 years go by. This is true story. 2 years go by. I'm playing lead trumpet in Illinois Jacquette's band. Illinois was living in Queens at the time, and they had started a jazz fest in his honor. And we would play out in this park that was across the street from a hospital out there in Jamaica, Queens. He lived in St. Albans, Queens, which was the same neighborhood as Milt Hinton, if you're familiar with that name. He's like the grandfather of all the bass players next to Blanton, and that was in Ellington's band. So, long story short, Illinois had passed away, right? And they wanted a big band to play in his place because when he had just died, his widow didn't feel up to putting a band together to play in his honor, so they asked Frank Foster to bring in his Loud Minority band. So now, all of a sudden, diddle-diddle-ding, 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 I pick up the phone. It's Earl Gardner, from the lead trumpet player from the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, which is now known as the Vanguard Orchestra. And I was like, Earl, what's up, man? He said, hey, man, I got called to do this thing with Foss, but because he plays Saturday Night Live, so he couldn't make the gig. He said, can you fill in for me and do this gig with Frank Foster? And I'm like, I'm on the back behind the phone, I'm like, oh God, if I say no, I'm gonna lose the opportunity. I'm scared as hell. What am I gonna do? Shit, he's asking me to sub for him. What am I gonna do? Because remember, 2 years ago, played Frank Foster's music, and he said, got a nice sound, but you gotta work on your reading. So I'm like, damn, here we go again. What am I gonna do? So I said, all right, I'll do the gig. I went and nailed the gig. At the end of the gig, I went to Frank Foster, and I said, hey, Foss, how did I do? He was like, how'd you do? He said, man, you passed the test. He said, you were in the band. So I started playing lead for Frank Foster. Why? Because I just kept practicing to try to get to the things that I like to do. When he was on his deathbed, these two big jazz radio announcers drove down from New York to go see him in Virginia because he was living in another state at the time. At this point, he's in a wheelchair. He can't play anymore. Some company in Japan was trying to come up with a new soprano that you can play with one hand. They were going to make this new soprano just for Foss. But it never happened. And anyway, make long story short, these two radio people, one guy's name is Gary Walker, and another one's name is Dorthon Kirk, which is the widow of Rahsaan Roland Kirk, if you've heard that name. So they both went to go see Foss. And of all the people that he talked about, he mentioned my name. My name. This man's been around everybody. Everybody. Why is he talking about me? I'm like nobody. But there was something that I did that stayed with him, and it made an impression. And this can be you. So I'm not telling you this stuff to brag to you. I'm telling you because it can be you. Is there any, so some time goes by, and I'm seeing all these people going back and forth to Europe, and I'm like, damn, when am I going to get my shot? When am I going to get my shot? I'm never go anywhere. And then, little by little, it started to happen. First, it started with Rufus. Then, a couple years went by, and then I started meeting other people. Then I had gotten to Charles Tolliver's big band, and then started traveling with him, and lots of other really, really great people. And then from out of that, then I got asked to do Alicia Keys' tour, her 2008 As I Am tour. So we did 105 shows in 30 countries. 105 shows in 30 countries. It was on and off planes all the time. All of the time. Crazy stuff. Then finished the tour, started playing with Wynton Marsalis. So this is how it starts. And then it becomes like a snowball effect. And you just, before you know it, you're working with everybody. So again, whatever inspires you, whatever music you like, just practice listening to it, sing it, internalize it. You are the instrument. You are the instrument. Your instruments is just an amplification of your sound, of your inner voice. Is there any questions? Yeah, you want to play blues? Slow blues? We're going to play a slow blues for you. B flat.
That many cats could do that, man. Huh? Well, you know, if you got a Freddie Hendrix over there, don't matter if it's a slow balloon or.
Yeah, man. Really? I lived in Patterson for like 10 years, man. Down on Mill Street in the silk mills. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. Of course. I used to eat that chicken all the time, man. Of course.
But when you were going to people,
Yeah. After then I started to migrate down.
you were there when who was
Rufus was there when I was there. And then, no, then James Williams came in first. And then moved around to James. Now it's Charlotte. Yeah.
It's already broken.
What brought you all the way this way, man? Yeah? Oh, cool, man. What's your name, brother? Pepe. Oh, yeah. Here, check. Wonderful, man. My baby? No.
And is that vegan spot that you haven't still in?
Yep.
And that, like, Jewish house store?